My name is Mark Mulholland, an artist from Glasgow, and welcome to the last of my 3 videos on drawing the face. In these 3 video tutorials on drawing the face, I'm not showing you the one true way to draw, rather I am sharing with you some of the techniques I have learned that assist me to capture the face and head. In the last video, I looked at creating shadow shapes, splitting the face into smaller sections. Those sections relate to different muscle groupings that lie under the skin. Finally, I showed you how I add tone to the face using a pencil. I have opened these 2 photographs on Photoshop. This software is going to help me edit the image to suit my purpose. The image on the left is the photograph that I used for the previous videos and was taken using a flash, whereas the image on the right hand side has directional light. That's light striking the face, in this case from the left hand side as we look, creating the shadow on the right hand side of the photograph. However, in that photograph on the right hand side, I'm looking to change that further by using the software to play around with the contrast and brightness. So I'm going to enhance, adjust brightness contrast, click on brightness and contrast. This gives me the option then to play around with these sliders. Contrast up increases the shadows, not to go too high on that. Brightness down, obviously making it darker, but allows me to see shadow shapes better. So I've selected this image. I've been careful to save a copy from the original and not to overwrite the original. This image now allows me to create the drawing with shadow shapes. I'm stylizing it quite a bit. But as you can see, simplifying the face using Photoshop in this way does divide the face into quite obvious light, mid-tone and dark tones. It's making my job that bit easier. I have chosen to use a range of Conte pencils. These are chalk pencils. And what I'm doing now is blocking in these flat colours. So I'm handling the media in this way so as to create a certain style. That style is quite illustrative, rather stylized. When I say stylized, I also mean simplified. It has a strong structure to it with these vibrant colours used. I'm trying to create a range of light, mid-tone and dark tones. So here's the yellow going in to create some of the lighter mid-tones. I'll leave the whiteness of the paper showing through for the lightest tones. Brown for the dark tones. But importantly, any black that I use will only be for the areas that are the darkest of dark tones. Now with regards to the media handling, that means how I'm actually putting the chalk down onto the surface here. Working at pace doesn't give me much time to think, I'm just doing. That gives a spontaneous approach and a lively, dynamic feel to the artwork when it's completed. Creating a drawing and working with something like chalk allows you to have an immediacy that sometimes can't be achieved when working with paint, so it does free a style up and allows you to express yourself at pace. So I'm now going to use the same image to create a second work of art. So I've traced the shadow shapes from the initial drawing. I've just held a bit of tracing paper up to the initial drawing against a window with the light coming in from outside, and it's allowed me to trace that. So now with my watercolours and using a red tone, I'm going to block in some of those shadow shapes. I've decided to use this red for the darkest of tones. Followed by an orange and then a yellow for what I'm classing as the two mid-tones, then leaving the whiteness of the paper for the lightest tone in the face and in the background. Now I have created what's called a prepared surface. That means I'm going to then work over the top of this once this is dry. I've decided to go over the top of this prepared surface with a biro pen. I'm using hatching and cross hatching, as well as lots of continuous line to start filling in the darkest areas. It becomes apparent fairly quickly, however, that using a pen like this means that the drawing takes quite a while to produce. But by choosing the pen, I'm allowing the choice of material and the media handling to dictate the style and technique within the artwork. So all of the dark tones are applied with this method of directional pen application. I would say that I'm an artist that likes to experiment with different materials and techniques. I'm not an artist that has one fixed way of working, or neither would I want to be told by somebody that I would have to work in a certain style and technique for the rest of my career. So I encourage you to experiment and play around with different ways of working. Find out what you enjoy, find out what makes you that creative soul. However, this drawing here is coming to an end, I would say. I'm not going to do much more on it than this. Again, it's just an experiment. Now for something that bit different again. I'm working with a pencil and continuous line. I'm actually creating lots of little spirals with my hand and with the point of the pencil, not taking my tip of the pencil off the paper, just keeping on going, creating this network of kind of spaghetti marks. if you like, starting to darken. Now to mix things up a little, let's just rub it out. Using the rubber to create hatches of erased areas. Using the rubber again to then go back over the top, cross hatch. There are two ways of using a rubber. You can rub out, and I suppose that takes away errors, removes mistakes, or what I just did there was to rub in. To rub into a drawing is to do something with the rubber that means that you're actually drawing with the eraser. That leaves that ghostly underlayer, and keeping that there purposefully. I'm going to start changing media with my Conte pencil, starting to work with slightly different types of mark making. Sketchy, continuous, spontaneous, purposefully messy marks. Try it out, give it a go. Charcoal pencil back over the top of that. What happens next, I don't really know. I guess I'm just really going with the flow. Now for something a bit different, I'm going to be working on grey sugar paper using charcoal sticks, Conte pencils white and black, a smudge stick, a pointed rubber, a normal rubber and a craft knife for keeping my pencils nice and sharp. I'm going to be using this image of my model sitting in a 3/4 pose with directional light instead of looking face on. I've run that image through Photoshop on the left, changing it slightly with contrast and brightness, and this image on the right, changing it quite considerably, but using both of these images to allow me to see that bit more of the tonal changes. So using the three of these together are going to assist me in creating the next drawing. But primarily I'll be using this image in the middle. So as per usual, my first job is to work with simple shapes, but importantly in this work here, I'm looking at the border between the edge of my drawing and the edge of the paper. So I'm looking to get those measurements accurate in relation to the photograph I'm working from. I then noticed that the fringe line on the right hand side is halfway between the chin and the top of the head. So just making sure that that's accurate. Thinking about the line of symmetry down the middle of the face, how it curves on a 3/4 view. Getting the height of the eyes is important, and then that leading profile of the face on the left hand side. Constantly making little adjustments, noticing by taking measurements with my finger span that the width of the face is the same as the height of the face that I can see in the photograph. And then adding some internal shadow shapes, splitting the face up into some simple shapes to begin with, working out that the base of the nose looks like it's halfway between the chin and the hairline. Initial tone can be applied really quite quickly using charcoal and then blended in by smudging with your fingers. it tends to dull the surface, so you then have to go back over the top with darker layers of charcoal, but it's very much a process of layer upon layer upon layer. Once enough charcoal layers have been added, then it's a matter of using a rubber to start working into the charcoal, removing some of those layers in the places where the highlights are, so starting to be more precise with the lighter areas of the face. At a certain point, you'll want to use some fairly inexpensive hairspray to fix the surface. That's to stop it from smudging and taking away some of the marks that you're happy with. So this is the equivalent of pressing save on the computer. And once you've pressed save, you can't undo what you've fixed. That has now been set into the paper surface. Now it's a matter of consolidating what I've got and adding further dark tone, again just with the charcoal stick over the surface, but perhaps now using the smudge stick to start blending some of those tones together, starting to get a little bit more delicacy into the marks that I'm applying. Working on this grey mid-tone paper allows me to have those mid-tones present. The highlights aren't there, and it's only when you use the white pencil over the top of the grey that you start producing that final layer of tone, those highlights. I'm using the Conte chalk pencil tentatively at first. Little individual marks. The white is very intense, dabbing here and there with the tip of the pencil. I'll then blend these together with the smudge stick. And then where the white Conte pencil blends with the charcoal underneath, it creates an interesting grey. So as I add the finishing touches to this drawing, I'd like to thank you for joining me in these 3 videos, where I've shared a little bit of my know-how and techniques that I use to develop my artwork. I do hope that you give it a go and try and work in a variety of techniques and media. Always develop your skills and look to create something different. If you would like to share your work with me and ask me any questions, then I'd be more than happy to respond. Please follow me on Instagram and Facebook at MBM Artist. I'm also contactable via my website, markmulhollandartist.co.uk. So please get in touch. I look forward to hearing from you. Bye for now.